Hey classmates, second try of this whole podcasting thing. Sorry about the confusion the first time. So this time I did Television versus Televisión by Hector Amaya out of Flow TV. Well, the first thing that I want to say is I really agree with a lot of the points that Amaya brings to the forefront of this paper. Like, number one, Spanish is very marginalized in U.S. society. Two, Anglo-Saxon ethno-nationalism has created an unfair discrepancy, and somewhere along the line, English became the norm and Spanish became foreign. Three, the FCC is being unfairly selective in how they enforce their own regulations. So without further ado, let's jump into it. It was really cool reading this article because it brings up an issue that I've seldom paused to consider in the past. Like, what's the role of Spanish television in America today? Clearly, we're all aware that America has a rapidly growing Latino community that's ready to assert its political agency in this country. We can see this by the fact that Obama's numbers among Latino voters are considered critical for him to regain re-election. That's part of why Republicans believe that Marco Rubio, he's a senator from Florida, he's Latino, he's of Cuban ancestry, is on everybody's vice presidential shortlist. So clearly a huge part of creating that turnout will be will have to do with utilizing media to excite Latino voters for one candidate or another, be it Obama or whoever comes out on the Republican side of the nomination process. A huge part of that is going to come out of this media conglomerate, and the thing is, Univision controls 75% of it. What? For some reason, we continue to consider Spanish television as a niche market, even though it's a rapidly expanding industry. And if America isn't careful, it's going to become dominated by one thing. It's going to have a huge effect on our political and social norms for the next who knows how long. Which transitions rather nicely into my next point. I definitely agree with Amaya that there's a huge problem with believing that Anglo-Saxon ethno-nationalism and the U.S. state are considered to be interchangeable by some people, when they definitely shouldn't be. Like, for instance, we consider that English is the norm, and he talks about that and noting that Bill Richardson and Chris Dodd both speak fluent Spanish, but in the first bilingual debate that Univision ever hosted, neither of them were allowed to showcase it, but perfect English was actually forced on everybody involved, when that wasn't the target audience. The target audience was brought in by the fact that, there were people out there who could speak Spanish. But for some reason, Spanish just kind of fell by the wayside. Again, Anglo-Saxon ethno-nationalism kind of coming to the forefront and deciding that English is American, Spanish foreign. Thirdly, I was alarmed to find out that Univision now owns about 75% of all Spanish broadcasting revenue in the United States, and yet for some reason this wasn't deemed to affect competition at all by the FCC. I don't know about you guys, but for me that just doesn't add up. CBS would never be allowed to own 75% of the U.S. media market without a tremendous fight from the FCC. I definitely think that this is bigger than just revenue, though. Like I said before, there's an expanding Latino population in this country, and if we're not careful, 75% owned by one corporation is going to affect everybody's political agency in this country. It's not just a Latino issue, it's a United States issue. It's going to affect the next presidential race, and the one after that, and the one after that. Now, the thing that would really interest me is to find out where Amaya stands on the issue right now. As he noted in his article, a lot was changing about the media landscape even then. But his article was written back in 2007, so I was really interested to find that there wasn't a single mention in his article of something like user-generated content, such as one would find on YouTube. I think that really is going to have a huge effect as well, because as we've seen, like the major networks are kind of their power has been a little bit diluted by the fact that people can now access smaller screens. There's a lot more agency among the viewership, and I want to see how that's affected the Latino community since Amaya's article came out in 2007. So, the fact that the media landscape has changed so much since 2007 is simply mind-boggling, and I think that's really important when we're considering any of these issues. So, until next time, looking forward to seeing you guys in class.